I heard it by accident, which is funny because she later swore I must have been trying to catch her. I wasn't. I was carrying 2 bags of groceries up the stairs, thinking about how I'd forgotten the sparkling water she liked, and whether I had time to run back out before the ice cream turned to soup. Hey viewers, before we get into the story, please subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want more stories like this. Our apartment building had one of those narrow hallways that acted like a megaphone. You could hear someone sneeze on the 3rd floor from the first. I'd learned to ignore most of it. Dogs barking, someone arguing about rent, someone laughing too loud on a call. That evening, I caught my own name. I stopped with my keys in my hand. The bags dug into my fingers, plastic stretching, and I stayed still because my brain was trying to decide if I'd misheard. Mila's voice came clear through the door, bright and casual. The same tone she used when she wanted to sound easygoing, like nothing ever bothered her. Yeah, Mom, he's fine, he's good. It's just, I don't know. He's stable, you know. I couldn't do better right now, so this is what it is. There was a pause, like her mother said something that made her laugh. No, I'm not saying he's bad. He's sweet, reliable. He does all the boring grown-up stuff. But you know me. I need something more, like Andrei. Andrej is my speed. He's got plans. He's always moving. He's not afraid to take risks. It's exciting. With my job being shaky, it's not like I can just blow up my life. I need the security until I'm set. The words hit like cold water. Couldn't do better right now. Security until I'm set. For a second, I felt like I'd stepped out of my own body and was watching a stranger stand in the hallway holding groceries, blinking like an idiot. Mila kept talking, and every sentence pushed a little deeper. No, he doesn't know. He thinks everything is fine. We're fine. I mean, it's comfortable, but you know. Comfortable isn't the same as alive. She said alive like it was a brand she wore. I should have kicked the door open. I should have walked in and asked her to repeat it. I should have demanded an explanation, maybe even raised my voice. Maybe given her something dramatic to remember me by. Instead, I did what I always did. I swallowed my reaction, rearranged my face into something neutral, and unlocked the door. She was in the kitchen with her phone pressed to her ear, leaning against the counter like the world belonged to her. She glanced up, smiled, and held up a finger to signal 1 second. Her smile wasn't guilty. It wasn't nervous. It was the smile you give when you're in the middle of something and someone you trust walks in. I set the groceries down, took off my jacket, and stood there while my heart pounded like I'd run a mile. "Love you too," she said, and hung up. She walked over and kissed my cheek like it was a normal Thursday. "How was your day, Adam?" Adam. Like the name meant anything. "It was fine," I said. I kept my voice steady. Picked up groceries. She opened a bag and started pulling things out. Her hands moved fast, confident. She had always been confident, even when she was broke and scared and calling her mother for reassurance. I watched her put the tomatoes in the bowl and the bread on the counter as if nothing had shifted in the universe. That night we ate in front of the TV. She laughed at a show we'd already watched. She leaned her feet against my thigh like she always did, and I felt every point of contact like it was a lie. When she fell asleep, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. The shadows from passing cars slid across the room and I kept hearing her voice. Security until I'm set. I kept thinking about all the places I'd been set and still stayed. We met 3 years earlier at a friend's birthday. I was 26, newly promoted, proud of my steady path. She was 24, an event planner with bright lipstick and big promises about what she'd do next. She called me calm, said I made her feel safe, and I liked being the guy who could hold things together. We moved in after a year when her lease ended and her work dipped, and I quietly started covering the gaps because I thought that was what partners did. Somewhere in the last year, her eyes started drifting. She'd scroll her phone at dinner, thumb moving fast. She'd pause on posts with men in rented sports cars, mountain views, airport lounges. She'd show me the screen like it was a joke. "Look at this," she'd say. Andre is in Lisbon again. It's insane. Andre was the new marketing guy at her agency. The way she said his name always landed a little too soft. I'd ask casual questions, trying not to sound insecure. What's he like? How long has he been there? Do you guys work together often? She'd laugh. Don't be weird. He's just fun. Then she started making those comparisons that were framed like innocent observations. Andre said he booked a flight at midnight just because he felt like it. Imagine doing that. Andre is starting a side business. He's always building something. Andre got invited to speak at some conference. I told myself it was harmless. People talk about coworkers. People admire other people. That's life. But the admiration had an edge. It wasn't just noticing. It was measuring. I'd come home after a long day, tie loosened, brain tired from spreadsheets, and she'd look up and say, "You should wear different clothes." Andre always looks sharp. Or, "Do you ever think about changing careers? Accounting is so safe." Andre says safe is just another word for stuck. She'd post stories about settling, memes about women dating men who are dependable but boring. Her friends would react with laughing emojis. Mila would laugh too, and then glance at me, half smiling like she wanted me to be in on it. I told myself to not be sensitive. I told myself love was stronger than stupid internet jokes. Then last winter, she lost a major client. It was the kind of loss that could mess with rent money. She spiraled, walked around the apartment like she was carrying a weight on her shoulders. She'd sit on the edge of the bed with her head in her hands and say she was failing, that she was running out of time, that she didn't want to be someone who peaked at 25. I picked up extra work. I stopped going out with my friends. I used savings I'd been building for a future down payment. I told myself we were a team. I told myself this was temporary. She got back on her feet, and my sacrifice disappeared into the background like it had never existed. By the time I stood in that hallway hearing her talk to her mother, I wasn't shocked by a single comment. I was shocked by the clarity. It wasn't a rough patch. It wasn't her being stressed. It was her internal story about us, spoken out loud. I was a phase she tolerated because it made her life easier. The next morning, I watched her put on her makeup in the bathroom mirror. She looked at herself with that practiced focus, eyelashes, liner, the exact shade of lipstick that made her feel powerful. She didn't look at me once. She left for work with a quick kiss and a bright, "See you tonight." I waited until the door clicked shut, then sat on the couch. My hands were shaking, but my mind was calm, like something inside me had finally accepted the truth. I wasn't going to fight for a place in a life where I was considered temporary. I didn't scream. I didn't argue. I didn't try to win. I packed. I folded clothes into a duffel bag. I grabbed my work laptop, my documents, a few framed photos that were more mine than ours. I left the couch, the kitchen gadgets, the nice towels she'd insisted on. I left the decorative stuff she loved. I took what mattered, and what mattered wasn't much. The note was the last thing. I stood at the counter with a pen and a blank piece of paper, wanting to write something that would burn, something she'd read and feel in her bones. What I wrote was simple. You said you couldn't do better right now. I'm giving you the chance. That was it. I left the key on top of the note. I walked out with the bags in my hands, heart beating hard, and took the stairs down like a man leaving a building he'd never return to. My friend Danilo lived across town in a cramped one-bedroom and never asked too many questions when I showed up with my life in duffel bags. He opened the door, saw my face, and just stepped aside. His apartment smelled like coffee and laundry detergent. He handed me a beer without speaking, and we sat on his couch watching a game neither of us cared about. I turned my phone off for a few hours because I needed silence more than I needed closure. When I turned it back on, the screen lit up like a siren. "Where are you? Call me. This isn't funny." "Adam, seriously, are you at work?" Then the voicemail started. Her first message was careful and soft, the tone she used when she wanted to sound like the reasonable person. "Hey babe, I got home and your stuff is gone. What happened? Are you okay? Call me. I'm worried. Worried." It almost made me smile because the words sounded so fake after what I'd heard. The second voicemail came 20 minutes later, sharper. I saw the note. What does that even mean? Giving me the chance to do better. Are you breaking up with me over nothing? You can't just disappear. We need to talk like adults. Adults. Like adults was something she could summon when her comfort was threatened. By the third voicemail, her voice cracked, not with remorse, but with frustration. Okay, wait. Did you hear that call? Is this about my mom? Adam, that was just venting. You know how she gets. I didn't mean it like that. I was stressed. I didn't mean you're a placeholder. You're my partner. But you have to admit, things have been routine. I just need more. That's not a crime. Andre is just a friend who listens. He understands my energy. My energy. She always had a way of making her desires sound like a natural force, something nobody could question. I stared at the wall while the message played, feeling my earlier hurt settle into something colder. Not rage, something cleaner. Detachment. I texted her one sentence. It's over. I'll coordinate a time to get the rest later. Her reply came instantly. What? No, you can't do this. We built a life. I love you. At least talk to me face to face. Don't be cold. Cold. As if leaving quietly was a worse crime than using someone for stability. I blocked her number for a week because I needed room to breathe. That week was strange. I expected to collapse, to beg myself to go back, to feel the kind of panic people talk about when they lose a long relationship. Instead, I felt empty in a way that was almost peaceful, like I'd been carrying a heavy bag for years and finally put it down. The ache was there, but it wasn't chaos. It was grief with boundaries. Danilo didn't push. He let me sit in silence. He offered food. He made dumb jokes. On the third night, he asked, "Do you want to talk about it?" I told him the basics, the phone call, the words, the way it rewired something in me. He nodded and said, "That's brutal, but it's also clarity. You got handed clarity." Clarity was the right word. A week later, Mila showed up at his door. Danilo cracked it open, saw her, and looked back at me like he was asking with his eyes if I wanted him to shut it. I said nothing. He stepped aside reluctantly, and she walked in like she belonged there. She looked different in a way that was designed to trigger me. Sweater I'd bought her. Hair messy like she'd been crying. No lipstick. Eyes red. "Adam," she said softly, like she was addressing a scared animal. "Please. This is ridiculous. You're throwing away 3 years over a misunderstanding." I stayed seated. My hands rested on my knees. I could feel my heartbeat, but my voice was level. "It's not a misunderstanding. I heard you." She blinked fast, her face flushed. "I said dumb things. I was stressed. My mom pressures me. You know I vent. It wasn't about you. It was about me feeling trapped. Work has been insane, and Andre is just... he's going through similar stuff. We talked, that's all. Talked, I repeated. You compared me to him. You said you couldn't do better right now. You said you needed security until you're set." Her shoulders stiffened like I'd slapped her. "God, you're twisting it. I meant the economy, my career. Stability matters. You provide that. But I need passion too. I need excitement. I'm not a bad person for wanting more." She said it like a defense, like desire was a permission slip. I stood up. I wasn't angry. I wasn't loud. I just felt done. "If you want more, go get it," I said. "I'm not the interim plan." She reached for my arm. Her fingers were cold. "Wait, no, I choose you. I choose us. We can fix it." But her eyes didn't choose me. Her eyes chose the comfort of not losing what I provided. I pulled my arm away gently. "Goodbye, Mila." She left with a muttered line about me regretting it. Danilo shut the door and exhaled like he'd been holding his breath. That night, the loneliness hit hard. I lay on his couch, staring into the dark, and felt the weight of what I'd walked away from. Not just her. the version of myself who believed loyalty could cover disrespect. I moved into a small studio 2 weeks later. It was plain, but it was mine. No shared furniture, no reminders on every shelf. I bought a cheap table, a mattress, and a lamp. The first night I slept there, the silence felt like a new language. I threw myself into work. Not in a tragic way, but in a focused way, like I finally had space to aim my energy somewhere that paid me back. My manager noticed the extra hours and the sharper results. Within a month, I was offered a senior role. It came with a raise and the kind of flexibility I'd wanted for years. I accepted without hesitation. I started hiking on weekends again. Mila always called it predictable. I stopped caring. On the trails, with my lungs filling with clean air and my phone staying in my pocket, my mind untangled. I realized how many of my choices had been made to keep her happy, how many of my ambitions I'd softened so she wouldn't feel threatened or bored. I started seeing my friends more. Game nights, beers after work. The people I'd half abandoned welcomed me back without judgment. They didn't make me feel like stability was an insult. They treated it like what it is, a foundation. I blocked Mila on social media. I didn't want to watch her perform a new life. Still, news trickled in through mutual friends, the way it always does in a mid-sized city where everyone knows everyone's business. Word still got back to me. Within a couple months, she was officially with Andre, the guy whose name had been floating around our apartment like perfume, and it played out exactly like you'd expect when someone mistakes chaos for passion. He was charming in public and volatile in private, always chasing the next thing, always needing an audience. They moved fast, fought fast, and dragged their mess into the agency until HR stepped in. When he cheated and the blow-up spilled into work again, she was the one who took the hit. She lost the job, the steady income, and the friend group that had been cheering her on. The exciting life she'd wanted came with a bill, and it came due. I didn't reach out. I didn't send a message. I didn't try to be the bigger person in a way that made me smaller. I kept moving. Around that time, I met Lena. Not in some cinematic way. At a work networking event of all places. She was there because her company was partnering with ours for a project. She had a calm confidence that reminded me of the part of myself I'd forgotten. She listened when people spoke. She didn't perform. She wasn't scrolling for the next thrill. We talked about normal things, work stress, favorite hiking trails, the best cheap restaurants in the city. She laughed at my dry jokes. I liked how easy it felt, how I didn't have to sell myself as exciting. We started getting coffee, then going on walks. Slowly, no rush, no dramatic declarations. The more time I spent with her, the more I realized how warped my old relationship had been. Respect felt like oxygen. You don't notice when you have it. You notice when you've been without it. 5 months after I left Mila, I unblocked her number for practical reasons. The lease on our old apartment needed final paperwork. I didn't want any surprises. I didn't want her to claim she couldn't reach me. I wanted clean lines. That same week, a text popped up late one evening. "Hey, can we talk?" No apology, no context. Like we were casually restarting a conversation. I ignored it. The next day, another message. "I've been thinking a lot. We had something good. I miss our chats." I didn't reply. Then the calls started. At first one a day, then more. I let them go to voicemail. I didn't listen to most of them. I didn't need her voice filling my space. But one night, curiosity got the better of me, and I played a message. "Adam, please, I messed up. Andre was a mistake. He wasn't who I thought. Can we meet for coffee? Just to clear the air. Clear the air." Like the issue was smoke, not a fire she lit. I deleted it. A week later, she showed up outside my office building. I was walking out with Lena, who had stopped by to pick me up for dinner. It was early evening, the kind of cold that makes city lights look sharper. I saw Mila before she saw me, standing near the entrance like she was waiting for a ride. She looked thinner. Her coat was too light for the weather. Her hair was pulled back fast, like she'd done it in a hurry. When she spotted me, her face changed instantly into that practiced expression that used to work on me. "There you are," she said, forcing a smile. "I figured you'd ignore my calls, so I came here." Lena's hand hovered near mine, hesitant. I didn't touch Mila. I didn't step closer. I just stood still. "What do you want, Mila?" I asked. Her eyes filled quickly, as if she'd rehearsed this moment and her body was following the script. "To apologize. To tell you I'm sorry. That phone call, it was stupid. I was stressed. But you were never just good enough. You were everything. Andre, he cheated. He yelled. He drained me. I lost my job because of the drama. I see now what I threw away." Her words poured out like a sales pitch, quick and emotional, designed to overwhelm. I felt nothing. That was the most shocking part. 6 months earlier, her tears would have made my chest tighten. Now they felt like weather. "Okay," I said. She blinked. "That's it." "Okay." "What do you want me to say?" I asked. "You said what you said. You made your choices." She stepped closer and I took one step back. "Don't do this. We can fix it. I'll change. I'll stop with social media. I'll be grateful. I'll plan dates. I need you. Need. Not love. Need." I looked at her, and for a brief moment I saw the version of her I'd loved, the vibrant girl from the birthday party. Then that image slipped away, and what I saw was someone panicking because her safety net had walked away. "No, Mila," I said. "We're done." Her eyes flicked to Lena, like she'd just registered her existence. "Who is that?" "My friend," I said, and I hated myself for the lie. Lena didn't deserve to be minimized to protect Mila's pride, but I was still learning how to take up space. Mila's face twisted, a flash of anger cutting through the tears. "Already replaced me." That was fast. "It wasn't fast," I said calmly. "You left long before I did." She stared like she wanted to argue, but the words wouldn't form. She turned and walked away, shoulders stiff, as if she could hold her dignity together by force. Lena didn't ask me 100 questions. She just looked at me and said, "Do you want to go somewhere else for dinner?" That's when I realized how different healthy looked. No drama, no making it about her. Just quiet support. The next few weeks, Mila escalated. She texted late at night. She called from unknown numbers. She sent messages through mutual friends. Her mother even tried calling me, leaving a voicemail that felt like a command. "You need to talk to her. She made a mistake. Families work through things. Stop being selfish." I blocked that number too. Mila's messages swung between pleading and anger. One night it was, "I can't sleep. You were the only one who got me." Another night it was, "You're pathetic. You ghosted like a coward. I deserved better anyway." Then minutes later, "Please just answer." The flip wasn't about love. It was about control. She couldn't handle that I'd taken the choice away. The final scene came at a wedding. A mutual friend, Oleg, was getting married in a garden venue outside the city. I'd RSVP'd months earlier, before everything turned into a circus. Lena came with me. By then we were quietly official. Not because we'd announced it, but because it felt real and steady, and we didn't need a spotlight. String lights hung above the tables and music floated over the lawn. I wore a suit, felt good in my own skin, and for the first time in a long time, I wasn't scanning the room for someone else's mood. Then I saw Mila. She wasn't on the guest list, and her presence was obvious, like a bruise on a perfect photo. She came through a side gate, hair messy, dress wrinkled, eyes wild. People turned. Whispers started. She locked onto me like a target and walked fast across the grass. "Adam," she hissed, grabbing my arm. I stepped back immediately, pulling my arm free without jerking. "Not here, Mila?" "Yes, here," she said, voice rising. "I've tried everything. Calls, texts. You won't answer. I'm begging you. Andre ruined me. He cheated. He left me broke. I lost my job. I have nobody. You were my rock. I was wrong. Please take me back. The words spilled out loud enough that nearby guests heard. The music kept playing, but the air around us tightened. I saw Oleg's bride glance over, confused and annoyed. I saw Lena beside me, still and calm, not stepping into the chaos, just present. Mila's face was wet with tears, but her eyes were hungry, like she was trying to drag me into her collapse. I spoke quietly, but clearly, because I'd learned that calm is louder than shouting. You said you couldn't do better right then, I said. So I gave you the chance. Her face twisted. Don't throw that in my face. I was wrong. I'll be better. No comparisons. No Andre. Just us. Us felt like a word from someone else's life. I looked at Lena. She held my gaze, steady and warm. No competition. No performance. Just a person who respected me. Then I looked back at Mila. I have done better now, I said. Not because I found someone new, because I found myself again. You don't get to come back because your exciting choice turned into a mess. Mila's mouth opened and closed. Her eyes flicked to Lena, and the realization hit her like a punch. She tried to recover with anger. So that's it. You're just going to humiliate me. You did that to yourself, I said. I'm not humiliating you. I'm setting a boundary. Go home. She shook her head hard, like refusing reality could change it. Then she turned and pushed through the crowd, shoulders shaking, leaving a trail of whispers behind her. For a moment I stood there, hearing my own heartbeat, feeling the old temptation to chase after her, to smooth things over, to make sure she was okay. That reflex was deep. It had been trained into me by years of being the stable one, the fixer, the man who made things comfortable for someone else. I didn't move. Lena slipped her hand into mine. Her fingers were warm. You okay? She asked. Yeah, I said, and this time it was true. We stayed at the wedding. We danced. We laughed with friends. The night didn't belong to Mila. It belonged to the people who were actually choosing each other, not using each other as placeholders. Later, back in my studio, I sat on the edge of my bed and thought about the note I'd left months earlier. Giving you the chance. At the time, it had felt like a bitter line, something sharp to cut the cord. Now it felt like the truth of my own life. I hadn't just given her a chance. I'd given myself one. The lesson wasn't that karma always shows up, or that the person who wrongs you will suffer. Life isn't that neat. The lesson was simpler and harder. If someone sees you as a right now, you don't argue them into seeing you as forever. You leave. You build a life where you are chosen without condition. You stop trading your self-respect for the comfort of not being alone. Mila didn't ruin me. She revealed the part of me that was willing to settle for crumbs as long as I could call it love. And once I saw that, I couldn't unsee it. 6 months after walking out, I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even sad in the way I expected. I felt steady, like a man standing on ground that wouldn't collapse under him. And that, I realized, was the real upgrade.